Next on our agenda is the 5.0, the superintendent report. Superintendent Kingsley will now make remarks to the Board of Education and to the community.
Good evening again. That's a hard act to follow. As I was sitting there listening, I started jotting some words that I was hearing, like just around care and laser focus and love and joy and feedback and family and community. It just reminds me of the day-to-day interactions that we can have if we choose to seek the light and the optimism that exists in this community and our schools, and I'm grateful for it. Had an opportunity within the last 2 weeks to visit several schools, some with many of you. Board Member Draper, we had a chance to spend some time in Wellington a couple of weeks ago, and I've been wearing this bracelet ever since. I went to Eyestone Elementary School, and their motto is, "We can do hard things." We can do hard things. And I want to start there as kind of the centerpiece of what I'd like to share in terms of our comments tonight, because regardless of the complexities of the things that are in front of us or behind us, we can do hard things, and our people, our community is resilient, and our kids, our staff show us that each and every day when we pay attention to it. When we see them, we hear them, and we value them. I want to acknowledge that I know that there's continued emotion, both in this room as well as in our community, regarding the recent change that our district has made, that I've recently made, regarding masks being recommended but not mandated in our buildings beginning on February 12th. We know, and Board President Pedersen acknowledged this in his opening remarks, that people will feel differently about our decision-making, whether it's about masks or literacy instruction or how we approach music and the arts and how we think about athletics and whether we should have a bell schedule at a certain time or a later time. And, those things are never going to be easy, but regardless, we're still community. And we've been through so many changes. I've only been here 7 months, and it's been a roller coaster ride, and I'm happy to be on the front seat with all of you. But I want to acknowledge that there are other changes that are likely. This isn't the end. I don't want to say it's the beginning either, but I think the reality of us continuing to evolve and be strong and realize that we can do hard things and change is a part of life is something that I want to start off and name, not to inject fear into our community, but to instill confidence that we're continuing to keep our buildings open and kids are learning and they're experiencing family-like atmospheres and joy because our community trusts us to send their children to us, as well as our staff greeting and overcoming the barriers that are in front of us. I'm here also to acknowledge today that we must continue to focus on our kids. They are what matters most. That's why we're all here. It's why you're choosing to speak to us tonight. And that's the centerpiece. And that also means focusing on our priorities, doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on our district priorities. And I think that's one of the primary reasons that we choose to acknowledge and start our evenings as a governance team by celebrating this community, celebrating our children, our staff, our community partners. Having an opportunity, I saw Scott Wheeler, the chorus choir teacher at Kennard Middle School. I was in his classroom on the first day of school, and he put me to work. He made me sing. I don't sing well, y'all. You don't want to hear me sing. But I could say all of those teachers and all of their students, one of the most powerful things about not just celebrating them, but watching them is our music and the arts classrooms are where we actually, some instances, provide the most feedback to children. Right? We're constantly coaching, and students are hearing whether something went right or didn't go right, and they're able to self-correct. And being able to provide feedback to each other is a part of the way that we engage as people. And part of that is having civil discourse. Recognizing that leadership matters. Having the assistant principal of the year in the state of Colorado in our backyard is quite significant. It's a testimony to all of the people who have breathed life and invested in him along the way. Thinking about the various challenges that we're dealing with, especially in some of our most vulnerable communities, and responding to the cause by engaging with community partners, whether it's the pediatrics organization that we celebrated tonight or our local health department that we'll hear from and our staff, is significant, as well as continuing to hear from you. We need to do more of that, not less. I'm really grateful that over the last couple of board meetings, we started by, again, going deeper in our priorities. That continues tonight. You've recently heard a presentation about our comprehensive approach to improving wellness for our children and for our staff and improving mental health, and that we will continue to come back to this board and to this community to provide timely updates, and we are on target to come back to this board and our community in April. So I'm excited about that. I also want to say that we are on the very near horizon getting ready to release our next monitoring report around our district end. So continuing to check in with our progress around how we're moving the needle, not just with performance, but with how children are continuing to either be or not be connected. So we can be laser focused in our service delivery model. That matters. And tonight you're going to hear a brief presentation that talks about how we are going to diagnose what we need to do differently potentially with our literacy practices to make sure that they're equitable across our system. I can't think of as a superintendent of this proud community, I can't think of a more important job that we have than to ensuring that every child in this school district not just graduates, but graduates with options as a result of them being healthy, looking themselves in the mirror and seeing themselves as enough, but being literate. Literate. We have the highest literacy rates across the Front Range. The highest across the Front Range, yet almost 40% of our students are not on grade level. That's not okay. And what I can tell you is every classroom that I walk in, every teacher is teaching their heart out. We're not taking time off. So we need to identify what are things that we can do better. Do we have the right high quality instructional materials? Are we teaching literacy across all of our disciplines? Because it's not just our English teachers. It's not our English language arts class. Our literacy instruction happens in our music classrooms, our health classrooms, our science classrooms, our social studies classrooms, and as a former math teacher, our math classrooms too. What does our professional development look for our school leaders, our instructional coaches, our assistant principals, to be able to coach teachers up rather than say what they're doing wrong? And so tonight you'll hear a presentation about, I think, one of our most important aspects of work, which is how we approach literacy. I'm really incredibly excited about that. I see this as a beginning, not an end, but I continue to be grateful to be the superintendent of this great school district, and I want to thank you again for allowing me time to address the community as well as you this evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those remarks. Inspiring as always. Really appreciate it. Thank you. We'll